Hello and welcome to New Life on AUK Radio. I'm your host, Yinka Omishore. So today we are going to be talking about that pump called the heart that gets the blood flowing all over our bodies. And why does a heart matter? The British Heart Foundation every February dedicates it to the heart. So we want to look at the differences between a man and a woman's heart, looking at some statistics, some lifestyle strategies to help us look after our heart, and many more. So, did you know that over 17.9 million people die from what we call the cardiovascular diseases? That's a whole lot of people exiting planet Earth before their time. Because a third of the people that die from cardiovascular disease are actually under the age of 70. Now that begs the question, is it really an old people disease? If that many people are dying from cardiovascular disease under the age of 70, my answer will be no. That being said, there are behavioral risk factors that we have the power to change that will reduce our chances or risk of having cardiovascular disease. So, did you also know that a man's heart is different from a woman's heart? Yes, there are some differences. One, in the size. A woman's heart is smaller than that of a man. The walls of the chamber of a woman's heart is actually thinner than that of a man. And when a woman is stressed, the pulse rate goes up. That means the heart is having to pump blood a little bit faster. Whereas for the man, when they're stressed, the arteries get constricted, therefore increasing the blood pressure. Another difference is men have cardiovascular diseases earlier on. When I say earlier on, before, of course, the age of 70. But women have a higher incidence of cardiovascular disease post-menopausal. So that means a woman that's gone into menopause at, say, age 51 has a higher risk of cardiovascular disease. And that is because the reproductive hormone called estrogen offers protection for a woman's heart. And that is one of the hormones, in fact, the main hormone that decreases when a woman is going through menopause. And of course, when it comes to postmenopause, there's very, 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 very little estrogen left to protect the heart and, of course, to do all the things that the body needs. So a woman's body, and I know today we're not talking about the menopause, which is one of my subjects to talk about, but I just thought I'd throw it out there that for the reasons being the estrogen decreases as a woman comes into postmenopause, therefore, it predisposes a woman to a higher risk of cardiovascular disease. So, why should you and I be looking after our heart? Think about it. There's a verse in the good book that says, the life of the flesh is in the blood. And for the blood to go all around the body, it needs the heart. So if your heart is not working well, therefore, it's not pumping blood to all the major organs of the body. And therefore, we have issues, which brings me to some of the diseases of the heart. So when I say cardiovascular disease, I'm also referring to disease of the heart in general. So we have the one that I always trip over pronouncing this particular word. Believe it, I have a biology degree. It's atherosclerosis, which is the hardening of the arteries. So plaque builds up in the veins, in the arteries of the heart. So imagine your kitchen sink, for example. You've probably been pouring oil down that drain. So many things has been going down that drain. And then one day you find that when you turn on the tap to run the water, whether you're washing your dishes or whatever you do at the sink, the water is not going down. Therefore, the pipes is blocked. So we pour down either Mr. Muscle or whatever else we need to decongest those valves. It's the same way in our heart when we have been living a healthy lifestyle, smoking, overuse, overconsumption of alcohol, all of these things, and like I said before, behavioral factors that we have power to change. and therefore you have this plaque building up on those arteries, meaning that the heart is having to do a little bit of more work of pumping the blood around the body, because the way the passage is a lot thinner than it normally should be. All right, so that's one. Heart failure is, of course, when the heart doesn't do the job that it should do with pumping blood properly throughout the body. High blood pressure, I'm sure many of us are familiar with that terminology. This is a silent killer because it has no symptoms. The normal blood pressure is 120/80. That's your systolic over your diastolic measurement. And once it's over that, especially when it's getting up to 140, the top measurement that is, and the bottom one is over 80, you are getting into that bracket of having high blood pressure. And high blood pressure itself is a risk factor for bigger, worse things down the line. So you want to know your number. You want to make sure you're living healthy, maintaining those healthy habits so you can keep your blood pressure at a normal blood pressure reading. Now, going on to, I've talked about the differences between a man and a woman's heart, giving us some statistics on globally. That actually, I didn't mention the fact that the 17.9 million deaths that happens as a result of cardiovascular disease is actually globally. Another thing is that heart disease is actually, the incidence of heart disease is actually more in the Black community, the Asian community, than in other ethnic community, which begs the question, why? Various factors, one being genetics, lifestyle, access to awareness and education about what is good for our heart, and also access to healthcare system. So those are some of the, again, other things that we can do, that we can change. I know we can't change our genetics, but we can maintain a healthy lifestyle to help us to reduce the risk of, for example, high blood pressure, having a heart attack, having a heart failure, or having the plaque build-up in our veins and in our arteries. So I just wanted to talk a bit about high blood pressure. And I have a story or a testimonial of a close friend of mine that was on high blood pressure for high blood pressure medication, I beg your pardon, for over 13 years. So reading a little bit of it, so I'm going to invite, she's coming onto the show at some point to talk about her personal journey. And she's been off medication for 6 years, over 6 years now. So here is what she has to say. She said in November 2018, she lost her brother to a heart attack. He was on high blood pressure medication, yet his diet remained unhealthy. His passing shattered the illusion that medication alone could protect us from poor food choices. It was a wake-up call that she could not ignore. A year later, an older brother of hers mentioned a documentary about plants, as in salads and eating more green vegetables and all whatnot. So she learned from there that you can actually reverse the high blood pressure as well as type 2 diabetes. So she said, given her family history and her own reliance on blood pressure medication, she knew she had to change. Now, she transitioned fully into a plant-based diet, and within 6 months, her doctor, that is a GP, started to reduce her medication. A year later, she's completely off her blood pressure medicine, or tablets, like she puts it here. So she said this journey, it wasn't just about the food, it was about reclaiming her health and her future. So today, she's also a certified vegan health coach, helping not just herself, but others to discover the power of plant-based living. Because real change starts with a single decision. Now, going back to what I said about those behavioral factors that we can change, one of them being our diet. So there's some things that we can do with our diet. Getting education like she did, on understanding what she should be eating and what we should all be eating, because whatever is good for our heart is also good for our brain. So there's 2 in 1 already there. making sure you're exercising regularly. Whatever you do for exercise or you like to do for exercise, it could be dancing, it could be joining a class, maybe joining the gym, going for walks. And by the way, that is free. Let's do it. Because we got joints and muscles and all of this for a reason, not just to sit down, because physical inactivity, that is when you're sitting down for long periods and not exercising, is actually one of the major risk factors for a lot of the diseases that we have, lifestyle diseases, okay? And if you're a smoker, you want to think about giving up smoking or at least reducing it. And if you do need help with doing that, there are many stop smoking services, especially in a country like the United Kingdom. Managing stress. Stress comes in different shapes, forms, and sizes. It's one, understanding what stress is, and then it's finding ways and means of managing the stress. We've mentioned about exercise, hydration, drinking enough water, practicing deep breathing. Take a moment out when you're feeling frantic, you're feeling stressed, your body gives you signals. And this is where I say we should be body detectives. Know and learn what is going on in your body, because it always gives us clues. When you think about the body is always trying to maintain balance. So when you have a headache, that is your body's cue telling you something is wrong. Pay attention. And all you might need might just be a glass of water, or just to take that 5 minutes away from whatever it is you're doing and relax and reset. You know how we press that reset button on our technology sometimes just because it's not working the way it should. That is what you need to do sometimes, just so you manage that stress. So remember that your health is your wealth. Your heart, oh, wonderful heart, works a lot for us. I always equate it to like the M25 motorway of the United Kingdom. And I also use that same analogy for the liver. So it sends blood to every part of your body. So imagine the M25, well, there's always traffic on M25, by the way. But imagine M25 has a really bad day. Or the major motorways like the M1, the M4, the M40, they all get affected. That means all of the places, all of the roads also gets affected, which is why we need to pay attention to not just the M25 on this occasion, but to our heart. Look after your heart, and your heart will look after you. And like I like to finish the show with is to say that let us get wealthy together by being healthy. And until next time, take care.